Take a look around. Most major cities are experiencing a housing boom as if the money was free. When you look at how low mortgage rates are, you realize that they basically are free. When you can finance the entire property 100% or higher, coupled with a super low or in a very limited occasion negative mortgage rates, you know everything is turned upside down. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Can you guess where the biggest housing bubble is? Well, if you haven't noticed already, it's Sweden. Congratulations, all my friends in Sweden. Real house prices in Stockholm going back as far as 1875. You can see that it has gone to astronomical levels. Bubble territory, dare I say it. And why has this been the case? Well, of course, if you make it very, very cheap for people to buy a home, they will continue to do so. Or if you reduce the incentive for people to rent, they will buy. Now think about this. Many cities around the world that have experienced these housing bubbles, let's just take Toronto or Vancouver, for example, and you'll find that the vacancy rate is 1% or even less. So as people are requiring to rent instead of buy, they are then, the result of which is basically less vacancies. If there are less vacancies, that means people can charge more for their rent. And as a result, people can barely even afford their rent anymore. So what do? They go back to live with their family. They start taking on roommates. They have to live in areas that are, let's say, a little questionable. They have to go and live in places that are inhumane. People living in crawl spaces and closets. I've shown you here on this channel before the Craigslist advertisements, and you'll see how really desperate the situation is. I mean, tent cities are going up everywhere. People can't afford it. People who are employed cannot afford to buy a home in the areas that they work. And that should be a warning sign to you and I, but also to those who are fueling this bubble. But where is the bubble? It's everywhere. The issue is pervasive. Supply boost. Number of Swedish homes for sale surged in November from the same month previous years. You see where it has gone is pretty clear. There are many cities that you will see this happening in, many countries. I don't like to necessarily look as a country on a whole. Just take, for example, Canada again, where you can see Vancouver and Toronto, and to a lesser degree Montreal, the prices have come up considerably. But there are other cities where the prices have actually come down. It depends on what's happening there. Look, oil had come down. As a result, you saw that affect the economy in areas of Canada. Well, that's why I like to narrow it down as much as possible, basically. Okay, so this specifically is the home sales, right? Now look at this. Top of the hill, Swedish property prices have grown dramatically in the era of ultra low rates. So here we have it, financial crisis. And you can see where it has gone ever since. And that's the housing index, by the way. So what we're looking at here is the result of what I talked about in the introduction. When you can finance a property at 100% or anywhere close to it, and of course you can do this in so many different countries, where if you're paying 1.5% down, you're basically getting it for free. But it's the mortgage, those rates, that ultimately will hurt people. So what do? Well, they use these negative interest rates, which in some very, very limited scenarios have resulted in negative mortgage rates. So think about that. You're getting the house for free, 100% financed, and then on top of that, you put a negative mortgage rate. People are literally getting homes. There's no incentive to rent when all the bills are being paid. You're actually getting a little bit of a paycheck in certain very limited cases. And so you have these distortions. And that's what central banks are doing. They're becoming hedge funds, and they're supposed to be encouraging price stability. That's what they say is the mandate for the central banks. I don't see that at all. I really don't. Look at this. Is that stable? No. And this happens to be Sweden. I could show you the same thing for Canada. I could show you a similar thing for the US. I could show you what's going on in Shanghai, London, different places, right? They're all increasing. And what are they doing? They're all doing the same thing. No matter where the interest rates were, they brought them lower. They brought them historically low. Losing faith. SEB's housing price indicator is now negative, and it's at its lowest level since early 2012. And you can see where this has gone, basically fallen off a cliff right now throughout the second half of 2017. Going back to this level is obviously very worrisome, particularly since it's the fact that it's going into the negative. But what could be the result of further quantitative easing, stimulus packages? This can turn around. That's for sure. That's what I want to stress to everybody, particularly those individuals who will criticize me. If the central banks act further, print more money, lower interest rates, they use any sort of TARP type bailout, then things can move higher. But what's happening? You're basically devaluing the currency as a result. Yeah, you want to hold assets. That's for sure. I've never suggested otherwise. So, switching gears quickly. UK inflation is more than a percentage point higher than the BOE's target. All right. Now think about this for a second. They're claiming interest rates at 3.1%. My friends in the UK, if you could please do me a favor, tell me what you think your inflation rate is. So when you go to the store, you buy food, your electricity prices, the things that matter most. When you go to pay for something today versus, let's say, 5 years ago, do you see a difference in price? That's what I want to know. Personally, for me, I'm located in Toronto, and I see prices rising in so many different ways. And a lot of them are hidden taxes too. For example, if you go to fill up gas in your car, you may not know that there's tax on that, but there is. If you go to the store and you buy something, you don't really realize how that's all factored in. Maybe you bought chicken and you didn't realize that there are taxes on that, these pollution and all this stuff. If you buy a computer, you have to pay a tax on that. Believe it or not, the environmental fee that they have. As far as I'm concerned, that's basically carbon taxes, right? No different in my book. Look, they're doing these things to us, and it's making it more and more difficult to essentially to go about our daily lives. Our cost of living has nothing to do with these garbage rates that they give us. 3.1%, I don't know. I don't live there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I bet it was probably at least a little bit higher than that, maybe 5%. A lot of times they don't even include, most people don't know this, by the way, when they look at inflation rates, and I've talked to people in the financial industry, believe it or not, people who are, they went to university and they claim to be educated and they claim to know all the answers. They quote the Federal Reserve's rate. They quote the Federal Reserve's rate, knowing the core inflation rate, that's what it is, that it doesn't even include food or energy. What's the point of having an inflation rate if you're not going to include the things that actually matter most to those with their cost of living? They're not factoring it in. It's so ridiculous. Anyway, I'll end it there. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps me to push these videos higher up in the YouTube search rankings. I'm really gunning for 100,000 subscribers, and I really hope that you will be with me from now until then and beyond. Last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can actually flip through these books. If you go over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature. It's going to allow you to flip through the pages of these books to see if you like them. Take care.